if the industry is collectively seeing 60% of the dollars getting wasted, where are we making a mistake when it comes to marketing?
There are people who are good at giving job interviews, and there are people who are actually good at jobs. But the CEO is saying, hey, if you're doing really well, then why am I not, succeeding as far as business results are concerned? It's about who, not how, right? It's not about how do I scale. It's about who do I actually trust in order for me to scale the thing. Marketing is such a subject that almost everyone and their uncle has an opinion, especially if you're in a company which is doing marketing in a very haphazard and substandard way. So when you're looking at marketing for all the answers, but you don't have a marketing CMO who's actually worth it, then you are taken for a ride by all the agencies. The problem that we are trying to solve today is, let's assume that you have gone all the way for growth. You perhaps have gotten funded, or you found product market fit, and as a founder, you have real pride in building your product or your service to this stage. And now suddenly you're trying to scale things up. In order to scale things up, you read somewhere that marketing or distribution eats product for growth. And now you suddenly don't understand what you're going to do, because your marketing manager or your marketing executive or yourself as a marketing person within the organization have not been able to really get that sort of pizzazz or that sort of oomph or that sort of impact from any of your agencies. And also there is no alignment. What do you do in such a case? So over to Janavi to put up some context for this problem that we've got here.
So did you know that in SMEs especially, 25 to 60% of marketing spends gets completely wasted? Nearly 60% of the startups fail because of these misaligned marketing efforts. And let's not even talk about the king of wasted spends, which is B2B, where around 70% of the content doesn't even get used. And around 75% of the marketing leads never even convert into a single sale. So I think the pattern here is quite clear, right? This money is going down the drain simply because there is a lack of alignment. Now, there is an absence of, number one, a formal marketing strategy, a lack of strategic planning. Second, as you mentioned, very vague briefs to the agencies. And then to top it all off, the measurement metrics are very irrelevant and very poor, which is resulting in companies spending top dollars towards their marketing with little or no returns. So now let's coming back to this question, right? Most of these companies are going bonkers trying to hire the best of the talent, the creme de la creme from colleges like IIMs, CMOs from the best IIM colleges, ISBs, etc., who have very rich pedigrees. Despite that, if the industry is collectively seeing 60% of the dollars getting wasted, where are we making a mistake when it comes to marketing?
I think the first thing is, in order for you to recognize who is a good marketer, you need to understand what marketing is a little bit. And I think that I heard somewhere, Janavi, that there are people who are good at giving job interviews, and there are people who are actually good at jobs, right? And I think that when you are this sort of company, you are kind of seduced by people who come across as if they know what they're doing. But in a sense, who should join you, and why should that person join you, are two very critical questions, right? Why should somebody of a pedigree join you? Yes, sure, you're a funded startup, but why should I leave my stable, secure, comfortable job wherein I'm doing well and it's a great brand that I'm working on, to take that dive? And even if I want to join you, what are my what can I grow? What's the story that I need to be attracted to? So that's why a lot of marketers are actually not top-notch marketers, are not going to go for even funded startups, because they will kind of be 50-50 for it. To top that, a lot of marketers are actually not in marketing. So if I look at good marketers, that is, a lot of good marketers are not in marketing. They have already shifted towards doing something else. So therefore, whoever is coming on to your doorstep is going to be a little bit green, maybe a little bit from the agency side. I don't know, there's something wrong over there.
Yeah, I think okay, when it comes to bigger companies, they think that marketers are the people who can make very good presentations or are very good at P&L statements or the growth side of things. When it comes to startups, one major problem I've seen is that marketers are considered to be people who are good at performance marketing. If somebody knows how to grow an Instagram page, they become the CMOs or they become the marketing leads. There is no differentiation between people who are creatively bent, people who can handle agencies, people who know what kind of campaign or what kind of messaging will click with the audience, and there is no separate person who is a growth marketer or a person who can run the paid campaigns in such a way that that messaging actually gets targeted to the right kind of an audience. So there is a lot of disparity in what people expect from a marketer, which is perhaps why the pedigree marketers stay in companies like HULs and L'Oreal's of the world, because these companies, they understand what the pedigree of a marketer really needs to be like.
Yeah, and So the weird bit, just to add to that, is if a marketer is going to be judged on performance marketing, cool. I don't see any issues with that, but not at the cost of longer term brand building and
Yeah.
growth, right? And I think that most of the times people conflate how you're doing in the short term with whatever you're doing in the long term, and it takes a rare talent for you to do that. And even if you understand it, right, you
Hmm.
might want to be coached into this as well,
Yeah.
because even from bigger companies, when people are in performance marketing roles, they still have issues around aligning with brand, and vice versa. People who are brand guys find it difficult to connect to performance marketing. So how the hell do you get one person who's got both and who's then willing to join you, who are and you're just funded recently and wanting to attract the best of things? So this is a multi-layered problem that we're solving here.
Yeah, yeah. And on top of that, somebody you can actually afford, because somebody who's coming with this kind of an experience, you won't get them at the early stage funding budgets, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to be willing to spend on them as much as you spend maybe on a CEO or a product manager guy, right? So
Yeah.
I think this is why the world is slowly shifting towards the fractional CXO route, the fractional executive kind of a route, especially when it comes to fields like marketing, which is multi-varied kind of a roles, right? These are the people with experience not just in running paid campaigns, not just in creating pretty designs, not just in making P&L statements, not just in building habit forming products, but the people who have an experience in all of these, and not just an experience but a specialization. Maybe people who work across sectors, people who work day in and out with different kinds of problems.
I think that's a very valid point, Janvi. But let's try to dive deeper into the issue at hand over here.
Yeah,
Right, I'm the CEO.
yeah,
Okay, I need somebody who can interpret me to the agencies. First of all, I
yeah,
also need somebody who can guide me a little bit, wherein I may have unrealistic expectations, or I may have expectations which are plain wrong for my business. Right, even I'm new at this game, maybe, or I'm somebody who has strength somewhere else. Right, so
yeah,
that's where it's at. The second thing is, just because you're looking at a fractional CMO or a fractional storyteller or whatever you want to call it, coming onto the table, what are you actually getting? Does that mean that you're never ever going to get a full-fledged marketing officer, who joins your company? Not really, because I don't think, Janvi, that you and I as fractional CMOs would want to be associated with a company for more than, let's say, a period of say 1 to 3 years, where we help them grow as fractional CMOs
yeah,
before actually helping that company to hire somebody full time who will then join a much better company, a much more organized company, a much more aligned company as far as their agencies are concerned. So it is always a give and take as far as this company and its growth is concerned. So what we are talking of is a very specific time period. We are not talking of companies who are been there and now have a marketing manager who has a vision, and then suddenly you're coming in and competing with that vision and stuff like that.
yeah.
That stuff doesn't work. You're
Right.
talking to people who genuinely need the marketing help. You're talking to people who genuinely need the inputs that a marketing person can get, especially across domains, and help talk the language of the agency in order to extricate the best possible outputs from them.
Yeah, right. It's basically somebody who brings in that eagle eye view, right? Somebody who can look at the company's operations from an outsider's perspective, and then brief the agencies according to what the higher tantamount is supposed to be. Like, not
Yeah,
just the day in and out of operations, not somebody who's siloed in, say, one social media team, one this team, or whatever, but somebody who's bringing the accumulated 360 vision to the table and is able to, translate that to an agency's language, which
yeah.
is something that companies are majorly lacking. And this is where the lack of alignment comes in the picture, which is the company's biggest problem.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that if I'm talking to a social media agency, or if I'm talking to an ad agency, or if I'm talking to a PR agency, most of the metrics that need to be discussed and agreed with those agencies themselves become a big challenge. Like,
Hmm.
for example, I've seen some absolute bullshit metrics coming from agencies in the guise of, hey, we are doing really well. But the
Yeah,
CEO is saying, hey, if we are doing really well, then why am I not succeeding as far as business results are concerned? So what
right.
is going wrong here? Or, okay, we have gotten a spike in some sort of sales or revenue going up, but I think that people are talking shit about my brand out on the marketplace. So those sort of things come to the fore. Now, if I have to actually understand this problem a little more, what can a fractional CMO actually do? It becomes the question, right? I think a company that is poised for scale, a company that is poised for scale actually has a few specific problems. So if I look at problem number one, they're perhaps trying to build a moat around that, product or offering, in order to keep the competition away. Now, how
Yeah,
do I actually, for example, explain this, okay, to the social media agency, to the advertising agency, to the PR agency, ki, boss, I'm trying to create a mode so that I have this competitive advantage. And yes, I also need to get sales. So how do I do that? Right? And how do I communicate to the agency? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. And what happens is, because there are a number of agencies doing a number of things, what goes as the requirement or as a bigger vision is maximum maybe one or two lines.
Hmm.
The company just translate, the brand managers just tell, okay, this is what we are trying to do, but how, why, the mechanics, the persona of the competitor, etc., etc., the market landscape. Now, this is something that companies expect the agencies to do. But if every agency is doing the exact same thing, the result is going to be completely different,
Yes.
right? So this one central vision kind of needs to get communicated from within the company, in such a language that the agency, that every kind of an agency would understand how your 10-year vision or your 5-year vision translates into a digital marketing agency, how that translates into a product optimization agency, or how that translates into an AI agentic agency. Now, that is a very different kind of a route that perhaps a brand manager who's working day in and out with that vision, who has internalized that vision in such a manner that it becomes very intuitive to them, would
Yeah.
not understand how to translate it to an agency who's looking at that vision for the very first time in their lives.
I think, and let me just add to that, right? So
Yeah.
if I look at, say, social media agency, or
Hmm.
if I look at an ad agency, what is happening in today's day and age and in today's market? And I've been speaking to a few people who are talking to me about how ad agencies are changing. So
Okay.
if I look at how ad agencies are changing, they are no longer dependent upon client briefs. Now, this is a remarkable change. Agencies are saying, hey, let's create some product already. So let's make sure that we've created some organic, because with AI, with maybe some
Yeah.
influencers and stuff like that, you can create some work product and say, hey, I've done some thinking for you. Okay, here is something that you can put up on Instagram for your D2C product, or something like that, right? And the client sees it, doesn't even know how to react to it, because he or she has not briefed the agency. And now you have to take it forward and say, okay, this is seems good, I don't know this. So then you're completely going by gut. You don't know actually whether that whatever that you're seeing, is it good, is it bad, is it ugly, is it actually aligning to the story, is it aligning to my north star, am I talking to the same persona here? Okay, is the platform right, is the value system, the purpose, is it correct? So there are so many questions that come to my mind when it's even reviewing agency product, one way
Yeah.
or the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's not just, the different kinds of an agencies, or the no, for example, you're very right, the agencies don't go by the exact brief that company set them. Now, here comes the problem. If I, as a brand agency, is using my own head in trying to make a campaign for you, that will never have the same kind of a strategy as a paid campaign agency will do, right? I might be making that campaign for Instagram, or I might be making a UGC campaign for, say, TikTok. Now, the paid agency is running campaigns on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? There
Yeah.
is an absolute dissonance over here. There is no parity in the kind of strategies, and these agencies aren't meshing together and brainstorming, okay, how can we do this for the client, that the right messaging or the right channel goes on the right platform. That's never happening. So where does this come from? And now let's take a step back. This is the agency side of fruit, right? When it comes to internal companies, especially the startups, new age startups, at least, the
Yeah.
first thing that they do after having the product in place is hiring marketing people.
Yes.
They have in-house marketing team, they have in-house design and content creation team, etc. So once you already have the internal team, what can a fractional CMO really do that the internal marketing team cannot?
I think the most important thing is that you've got a marketing team, okay? And let's assume that they're a smart, competent bunch of people. I think the fractional CMO is somebody who is potentially heading what they're doing with coherence. I think the marketing teams either are selected with a performance bias or a social media bias
Yeah.
or a PR bias or something like that. What you need is some guidance which goes slightly above that, right? You have to raise the frame here a little. The frame or your worldview has to be based upon your north star, which is like, okay, my story,
Hmm.
okay, my theme, the way in which my product is, this is the value.
So here comes the question that I think most of the companies might have, because of which they might hesitate for the fractional executive kind of a role. I am hiring somebody at, say, 70, 80 lakhs from a very good college, from an IIM Bangalore kind of a college, who's worked across like 7, 8 companies at very, very top global routes,
Yeah.
whatever. Why would I trust somebody like that, whose CV I have seen, who's basically accountable to me as a CEO, CMO? He's the person who has to have one review call with me every week, and if he doesn't do anything, I can bash his head that, boss, you're not bringing in the results. And I am not going to give you a good incentive or a promotion if you don't work properly. The same kind of an incentive doesn't lie with the fractional executive. The fractional executives aren't really accountable to the company. The worst that can happen is the company doesn't hire them for the next cycle after whatever, right? So why would I, as a company, despite having that 70, 80 lakhs kind of a CMO with me, still go for the fractional CMO route on top of the entire design team? Like, at least I have spent 1.52 crores in just hiring this kind of a talent. Why would I still hire an external person?
No, I think that this is a very tricky kind of situation, because it is always a build versus buy sort of thing, right? And my feeling is that if you think that you got a marketing manager in house, okay, if you met a candidate in house who is going to be able to make you sleep well at night, okay,
Hmm.
knowing that your marketing needs are taken care of, you should
Yeah.
hire that person. You
Yeah.
should hire that person. It is never, it is never an either or situation. The second thing that I would say is that you're not going to find that sort of person, especially in that sort of, sort of situation that you're in, because you're going to be either surrounded by hucksters, or you're going to be surrounded by people who are inferior, and this is just the truth of the market. So,
Yeah.
and you might even be surrounded by fractional CMOs who are in that category too, because they are just paying lip service because they are not accountable,
Yeah.
right? So it's a very murky world that we are living in. What I think you have to do is just take a step back and understand. Okay, so what am I trying to really achieve, right?
Hmm.
Am I trying to achieve some sort of network effect?
Yeah.
Am I trying to achieve a moat? Am I trying to achieve a very strong brand because I'm going IPO in 5 years or whatever? What exactly am I trying to achieve? What is my north star, right? And then have an honest assessment, like, okay, can my marketing manager hack it,
Yeah.
or does my marketing manager need some help? Then you're going to say, okay, who are the fractional CMOs out there in the market, right? Why should I trust them? This guy seems to be terribly busy. This guy seems to be just saying a lot of things, but ends up just creating PowerPoints, and I don't see a good track record there, right? So you
Yeah.
have a situation wherein you have these two extremes, and unfortunately, the CEO who has just received funding has to put in the hard yards towards this specific problem in order to have better longer term results. That's what I feel.
Yeah, and to add on top of it, right, a marketing manager, whether a good or bad manager, is very concerned about how the marketing team is working, or if the marketing
Hmm.
goals are being met. But perhaps they don't have the knowledge of the allied function, or they don't have the motivation to ask a product head that, okay, boss, what is the new product rollout that you guys are planning, and how should I plan my marketing according to that? There is absolutely no motivation, because that is going the extra mile, which neither gives them the promotion nor gives them the incentive, nor is something that the CEO is going to be bothered about, until it's something that creates a very exponential kind of an effect. And so what happens is, at least what I've seen even in the new age companies, there is a lot of siloing that's happening.
Hmm.
The product team never interacts with the manufacturing team never interacts with the marketing team never interacts with the packaging team, right? They're all working on their own functions, and perhaps they're working in a very, very nice fashion on their own work, but nothing is coming together to come bring something that is perfect for the market, right? So basically, all of these agencies, all of these departments, they are working in complete dissonance to each other. So the result happens is that the product team perhaps is coming out with spending tens of millions of dollars on of their bootstrapped or investor money on one product feature that has either absolutely no requirement in the market, or the user experience is completely antithetical to what the consumer psychology says. Now here, a marketing person whose day's work requires them to be interacting with the consumer so much that by just the look of things, they'll be able to understand whether a gamer will respond more positively to a golden coin or to a green dollar bill, right? They are never brought into the loop. So the what happens in such a case, as we were discussing earlier with the agencies also, that the marketing lead is given a vague brief from the product guy that talks about perhaps the mechanics of a feature, without why this feature has been rolled out, what it can unlock, for whom it is targeted, right? The marketing lead then gives a separate brief to the design team, be it in-house or an agency, for creating ASO screenshots. Then one brief goes to the social media team, one brief goes to the performance marketing team. So what happens is that so the ASO guy is talking about get more reward boosters. Social team is talking about play with friends. Performance team is pumping 10 lakhs on a YouTube campaign, on a non-skippable YouTube ad where the audience isn't even on YouTube, they're actually on Facebook. Right, so that's 6 months and maybe 40-50 lakhs of your money gone down the drain for just one feature that could have become a very very solid rollout if the product guy if the marketing guy could have just told the product guys that, hey, this is what the customers are looking for, so let's give them this and this is how.
Hmm. Hmm. I like to just. I was having a deep think while you were saying this as to, what does it all boil down to? What does it all boil down to? So one of the things is, which struck me, is that it's about trust, right? So it's about trust. I'll explain what I mean,
Yeah,
right? So the first question that a CEO who has received funding should say, hey, am I a marketing type CEO? Do I trust myself in order to scale this, or do I need help? Okay,
yeah,
right? The second question is, does my marketing manager or anybody else in the company know this enough? Can I trust them? Okay. The third question is, okay, this fractional CMO is saying that he or she is going to be able to solve this problem. Can I
yeah,
trust them? Right? It is a question of trust, and trust is directly related to the amount of comfort that I have, and no amount of data is going to help you beyond the point, right? It is about trust. It's
mm,
about who, not how, right? It's not about how do I scale. It's about who do I actually trust in order for me to scale the thing. So it's,
yeah,
it's a multifaceted thing, and it allows for people to actually make that decision. I may have that. Okay, I might have a fractional CMO, but I'll also have an internal team. I'll also be involved a little bit myself, and those sort of decisions need to be taken. Now, I have to say that if it is a question of trust,
yeah,
then I have to base all of my decision making on the kind of uh, strong understanding of my business and what will scale my business with the person who's responsible for marketing. That core understanding and that core mandate has to be shared. What you were talking of is silos, and what
mm,
you're talking of is roles being done but not actually. Why does that happen? Because there is no trust. There is no trust, and there is no, the marketing manager does not have the wherewithal to ask those questions, and the CEO doesn't feel that trust to share that stuff with the marketing manager. That's actually what may be happening.
maybe, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and also apart from trust, I think what happens in the companies is nobody wants to take that extra mile because they don't feel that they absolutely need to. Now,
Yeah,
for example, if something is going wrong in the product team, who's gonna get the bamboo? That's the product guy. It's not the marketing person,
right.
right? So why would the marketing guy waste his time? Because he has 10 things on the docket. He knows that he has to complete that within the week,
Yeah,
right? So why would he spend that time on the product guy trying to fix his problem? Unless the CEO himself is bringing everybody together, be it in-house team or the whatever, the fractional team or whatever, bringing everybody together in monthly meetings, or getting that vision out there, that what's happening in your team, why is this going wrong, what can be fixed, why isn't everybody working together. Like, for example, I've never seen even one brainstorming session happening between the different teams, which
right.
is very bizarre, especially when it comes to small startups. You are
Yeah.
15 people team, your 25 people team. I've never even seen those 25 people coming together for one meeting in a
Yeah,
month.
yeah, and this, by the way, happens in larger companies as well,
Yeah.
who are not marketing oriented, or who are not, aligned to whatever they're doing. They will perform activities. They will have a tick checklist. I mean, ye kya, wo kya. But essentially, if marketing is an afterthought, you've lost the battle of scale.
Exactly. Exactly.
Isn't
The CEO needs to ask this question. Okay, you've done 10 things in today's Scrum. Let us discuss whatever you have done. Okay, you've done 10 things. Now, where is this leading us?
Yeah,
Right? What are you trying to achieve by those 10 things? You made 10 designs, really good. Look absolutely brilliant. The Photoshop plan is done and dusted. But where's next? Like, what are we trying to achieve out of
I
it?
know, I know. Janavi, what are you saying then? What are your insights from today's discussion? What's happening? What have you learned? I've learned that trust is really critical, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, because there's something underlying, which is why things are the way they are. I
yeah.
always like to ask why are things the way they are? Why do people struggle? Why do why? Because of a lack of trust.
True, true. What I've learned is, I'll take from the very first point that you said, right? What matters is not whether you go the fraction CMO or CXO route, or whether you are hiring an in-house team. What is really important is when you are hiring whom.
Mm, mm.
Like, the alignment perhaps needs to happen in the beginning, and then people need to become in on autopilot. Or maybe you are looking to go from that early stage to that growth stage startup, or you're trying to become a unicorn, or you're at some milestone. Now here is where the alignment is needed. So whenever a company, or especially a CEO, feels that the alignment is getting off track, that
Hmm.
is when he should either bring everybody together and try to understand why things are not working in a streamlined way, or perhaps that is the right time to bring somebody who can bring an outsider's perspective, bring an eagle's view to the team as a fractional CMO, who perhaps would be there for 6 months or 1 year at max,
Yeah.
right? Just be there to align everybody, to tell everybody this is your role, this is how you should communicate, this is your proposition, and this is how everybody needs to work together to this one particular goal for the next 5 years.
I think the third thing that I've understood, and maybe we can have a quick acceptance of it or a rejection of it. But I think there is a different language only. Agencies speak a different language.
Yeah.
Marketing speaks a different language. CEOs speak a different language. VCs, investors speak a different language. So how are these languages interacting with each other? And it's like five blind men and the elephant. And it's quite likely that the outsider is the person who says, "Listen, pal, the emperor is naked. Make sure that get some clothes on. Get some clothes on the emperor." Right? That's what I feel.